Hello and welcome to Cycles of Time, your weekly guide to what's happening on Earth as we make our revolutionary journey around the sun. For time immemorial, our human ancestors have created myths and meanings to help us adapt and thrive as seasons change. Join me each week to explore the intersections of these ancient cycles, from the indigenous medicine wheel to the pagan wheel of the year, the Babylonian and Greek zodiac to the I Ching, the ancient Chinese book of changes. I'm your host, Allison Dale, and this is the Cycles of Time podcast. Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well as can be. So much has happened in the world since last time we spoke. It's really felt like an incredibly long week, just reeling in the news and sending all of my heartfelt prayers and support to the city of Los Angeles right now. It is just so devastating, and there's nothing new that I'm going to say at this moment, but that is just front of mind right now. I was in a house fire, lost my home to a house fire, and almost lost my life to a house fire in 2011. And that's a long time ago now, but it's still, whenever there's fire in the collective, I feel it deeply in my body and feel the loss and the devastation and the grief and just the multi-layeredness of what it means to lose things to fire. And I just sending my heart out to everyone that is affected by this climate change disaster. And I will post in the show notes some resources. I know they're floating around everywhere right now, so you probably don't need another link, but there's some resources to donate to some families that are the most in need, some mutual aid, and families that have been in certain neighborhoods like Altadena for many, many, many years and just don't have the resources to carry on right now. So I'll post some links in the show notes about how to support fire victims and just sending my love out to everyone on that side of the country, and also out to North Carolina and everywhere that is still being affected by climate change driven natural disasters and man-made disasters that are not getting as much news coverage right now, that still need a lot of support and help. It's overwhelming, to say the least. And this week all I could think of to do was just, figure out ways to remind myself to breathe. And so on the Substack, I will post an Instagram post that I made about just different techniques for remembering to breathe and to remembering to ground into our bodies. Because even if we're directly in the zone, or if we're just continuously absorbed by the media coverage and scrolling on our phones right now, we all need a reminder to kind of tap into our parasympathetic nervous systems a little bit. And I find that sometimes being told to breathe, especially being a fire victim myself or someone who's experienced that, is kind of like, well, what if you can't just breathe? And there's got to be other ways, right? And so, I'll share the post that I made, which is basically, just some shaking your body, fluttering your lips like a horse, taking a really hot bath, taking a quick walk, simple things that we all know how to do, but sometimes it's helpful to have a little bit of a reminder to get into our bodies and put the phone down. So, this theme of this week is the full moon in Cancer, which is conjunct Mars retrograde in Cancer. And it is a theme of nurturance. Cancer, the crab, is the sign of the mother, the sign of nurturing, the sign of care. And, we're here in Capricorn season, and Capricorn's on the other side of the sky from the moon in a full moon. And so Capricorn is also about nurturing and or not necessarily nurturing, but it's also about kind of parenting and caring. And in my mind, Cancer, Capricorn, this axis across the zodiac is an axis of different ways that we can take care of ourselves and take care of others. Capricorn is a lot more about the long-term focused, structured care, traditionally associated with the father, but not necessarily. And Cancer, so Capricorn's ruled by Saturn, which is all about time, all about kind of the outer limits of the solar system. Back in the day when Saturn was the last planet that we could see before the discovery or the download of understanding the outer planets. And so Capricorn is represented by that type of time, Chronos time, and Cancer is represented by another type of moon, which is lunar time, or another type of time, which is lunar time, ruled by the moon. Cancer is all about kind of the more quickly moving things, like the moon changes signs every day. And so it's all about kind of how we can attune to what's right in front of us. Whereas Capricorn season is about like, okay, let's think towards spring about like how are we preparing the soil for the spring. So just wanted to bring that up, that Sun in Capricorn, Moon in Cancer for this full moon is really about care at its essence. And care is such a simple word, but it's such a powerful value of mine. I remember when I was in my tech company days, we had a list of values, a set of values that we had for the company that we came up with, and they were community, compassion, and curiosity. And I really like all of those, but there was a time at one point while I was doing kind of chief people officer role at the company where care came in as the fourth C of our three C's, where I felt that compassion is one thing. It's empathy, it's sympathy, it's thinking about others, but it's not necessarily an action word. It can be, but it's not always. And so for me, the care is always an action word. Like to say I care about you is one thing, but to truly show care is another. And so this week, I really think that the focus is just showing care to yourself and to your family and to your friends and to those around you. Those that are near and far. We all need a little extra dose of care. So speaking of which, this show, I had the honor of having a wonderful guest whose name is Lily Hussey. She's an amazing astrologer and jeweler and artist and witch and just a really cool person who I have the honor of getting to know over the past couple of years, and really excited to share our conversation. She is a Pisces sun, but has a stellium of, I think, 5 or 6 planets in Capricorn. And so as we are wrapping up Capricorn season, we're entering the final gate of Capricorn season this week. I thought it would be wonderful to hear her perspective on all things Capricorn and how she has experienced life as having Capricorn, Mars, Venus, Saturn, Neptune, lots of planets there. So we'll get into that in the conversation here in a minute. But first, I'll just dive into the week's highlights and themes and a short little forecast about the gates of the week before we jump into the conversation with Lily. So this is the forecast for January 13th through 19th, 2025. I had to think about that for a second. I'm like, are we in 2025? Yes, we are. Still in that kind of zone of like, where are we? It's a full moon this week, Monday, January 13th. So if you're listening to this when it comes out, happy full moon in Cancer. This full moon is in gate 62, which is the gate of details, and it's across the sky from the sun in gate 61, which is the gate of mystery. And if you listened to last week's episode, I talked a lot about the gate of mystery, and we're still there this week until Thursday. And then from Friday through next Tuesday, Tuesday, we enter the gate of acceptance, also known as the gate of limitations. And I like to blend those together into the gate of acceptance of limitations. It just makes sense based on the content for me. So this full moon in Cancer, like I said, is really close in the sky to Mars, which is retrograding backwards through Cancer. So there will be a certain kind of hot edge to this full moon, a certain tenderness, I would say. And we are then moving in through the week. The final full gate of Capricorn season is the gate of mystery, where that moon is. And then the gate of limitation or acceptance of limitation is the cusp gate between Capricorn and Aquarius. It's linking those two signs together. So on Sunday, January 19th, the last day of this work week, or this week, the sun is entering Aquarius, the water bearer. So this week's themes, with all that in mind, are a conscious desire to embrace the mystery meets an embodied desire to understand the details. That feels really relevant to the current moment to me. Recognizing and acknowledging our limitations helps us when we are ready to transmute beyond them. So as we enter the last part of the week in the gate of limitations, it's all about how can recognizing our limitations and saying that they're there, acknowledging them, help us to actually then transmute beyond the limitations that are in front of us. And then the final theme is flickers of energy to move beyond our sovereign winter selves and begin the process of reintegration with the larger interconnected world, as flickers of spring are kind of saying hello from beneath the surface. In the Wheel of the Year, for those of you new to the podcast, I always do post, or I have the post of this intersectional, multidimensional Wheel of the Year posted on my Instagram at Astrosomatics and Cycles of Time podcast, and also on Substack at astrosomatics.substack.com. It's a visual aid that brings together the medicine wheel and the whooshing 5-element cycle of Taoism, the pagan Wheel of the Year, the zodiac, and the I Ching and human design Wheel of the Year. And so that sounds like a mouthful. It is, but the visual aid is all on the same circle. It's all on the same cycle, directional cycle of the solstices and equinoxes and directions. So check that out if you're new here to kind of get an understanding of where I'm coming from with that. But if you do take a look, you'll see a little highlighted section, and we're here in the end of Capricorn season. And we are in medicine wheel direction of north, about to enter the east pretty soon here in early spring. In the whooshing 5-element cycle of the Chinese Taoist world, we are in the element of water, the yin element of winter. Pagan season, we're in between Yule and Imbolc. And the zodiac season, we are moving from Capricorn into Aquarius on January 19th. The moon phase currently is the full moon in Cancer, also known as the snow moon. And the I Ching and human design Wheel of the Year brings us gate 61, mystery, from Monday through Thursday. That is known as inner truth in the I Ching. And then from Friday through Sunday and into next week, the sun is transiting through gate 60, which is known as limitation in the I Ching, and it's the gate of acceptance in the human design Wheel of the Year. So, let's see. A full moon in Cancer. How are we all feeling out there? This is a feeling kind of moon. And like I said, it's in the human design gate of details. It's a Cancer gate. My partner Jackson, who was on the show back in Cancer season, this is his sun gate. And it's, in my mind, I look at the gate of details as some people who have this gate activated are like really attentive to how all of the details fit together. And that can sound kind of more cold and exacting, like in a Capricorn-y kind of way. But for me, like when I think about Cancer season, I think about the middle of summer. It is a time to pay attention to the details of the plants that are like bursting with fruit. And if we're looking at like the ecological wheel of the year in the Northern Hemisphere, Cancer season is, a time of gardening. It's a time of really tending to the food that is growing around us. And this was super important in our ancestors' times across the world. And my partner who has this gate and his son in this gate is very good at like knowing when the plants need water and need to be pruned and trimmed. He takes care of the fish tank and he takes care of all the plants around the house. And it's that type of details. Like, it's not necessarily a spreadsheet worth of details, although the spreadsheet might be in his mind. It almost seems more like an embodied sense of details about like what is the most important thing to care for and to attend to in the current moment. And, across the sky, the Capricorn sun right now is in the gate of mystery. And this is the gate of kind of not details, right? It's the gate of saying like, actually, I don't know. I just don't know. And they're across, a similar axis. The Cancer and Capricorn axis, like I said, are this axis of care. And the gate of mystery within Capricorn season is like kind of about how we have to, after climbing and having ambition and drive and having the fight to get to the top of Capricorn's mountain, we have to kind of stop and embrace that there is so much more beyond that and not necessarily do anything about it for a moment. It's this point in Capricorn of reaching a certain relaxation into the greater mystery that is up in the sky and is in the landscapes far beyond the mountain we're currently on. And so it's late in Capricorn season, right? It's after that climb. And in the full moon, for example, it's late in Cancer season. It's late in the degrees of the sign of Cancer. And that would be a time that's, almost a month after the summer solstice, if we're looking if the sun was where the moon is now. And it's a time of getting a little bit more detail oriented than we might have been earlier in Cancer season. So there's always this kind of parallel opposite nature between the gates that are directly across the wheel and the signs that are directly across the wheel. And so this full moon is creating a bit of tension in the way that a lot of full moons do. That's what they're there for. They're there to mirror, the sun is mirroring the moon and reminding us of the opposite season from the one we're in. And I've said this a lot, but I just like to say it every time almost, that there's a full moon, that we're sitting in here in the dead of winter. It just snowed last night in Santa Fe, and we had a little roll around in the snow this morning in our snowsuits, and then made some pretzels and hot chocolate, and we're just deep in this like winter mode of just embracing like, oh, winter's still not over yet. It's still very cold. I still wish there was more snow. Like it's almost like this timeless quality to this season, at least where I am, because it feels like it's going on forever. But across the sky from that, like the moon is on the opposite horizon from the sun, and it is reminding us of deep summer, of that time when we are so deep in the heat of summer that, we are kind of almost lost in that as well. But there's a lot to pay attention to as far as living beings that are around us. So mystery versus details might cause a bit of tension in this full moon. And then we have Mars nearby. And I mention this because Mars retrograde is a long-term transit. Mars has perceptibly been moving backwards, started in Leo, and then on the 6th of January moved back into Cancer to kind of revisit the sign of the crab. And Mars is in fall in Cancer in traditional astrology, meaning that Mars doesn't really like to be there, because Cancer is a water sign. Cancer is an emotional sign, a place that can kind of is about nurturance. And Mars is the planet that Aries rules, that is all about moving forward, being direct, being assertive, like poking out of the soil as a little sprout. And so being in this place where he's kind of still stuck in the water, it's kind of like, I just want to move. So there's a certain itchiness, a certain tension that we might feel in our bodies right now with Mars in Cancer. And then having the moon activating that is just always enhances and expands the sensations of that. So spend some time this week as you look up at the full moon, thinking about the synthesis between the mystery and the details, and how certain seasons it's more important to know more of the details, and certain seasons provide the opportunity to gaze up into the mystery and include mystery in our aspirations and in what it is that we want to achieve. Like, we don't know everything. We don't know how everything is going to go. We don't know that history is going to repeat exactly the way another history did repeat itself, because we are in a new era, and there's a lot of new factors here. And so this week, as hard as it might feel with this full moon saying like, hey, what about the details? It's still a really good week to lean into your inner knowing, your inner truth, the mysteries of the world. And in the I Ching, the hexagrams is made up of the 2 trigrams, wind over lake for gate 61, the gate of mystery. And it's kind of like just letting the wind blow over the lake, creating, let the wind create splashes, create new waves, create new weather patterns, but kind of skimming over and looking at the vastness of the entire lake, the way wind can just skim across a lake. And that is the full moon in Cancer. We are then moving from the season of the sea goat to the season of the water bearer on Sunday. And next episode, I will get into all of the Aquarius season gates, and I have a couple of other articles coming out about Aquarius, so we'll go deep into Aquarius next week. But for this week, I will wrap up the forecast by talking a little bit about the gate of acceptance or limitations, gate 60, as it's taking us through the weekend this week and lifting us out of the mystery. So from Friday the 17th until next Tuesday, which is the 21st. The inauguration's getting close, y'all. That is, the day after the presidential inauguration in the United States. So that inauguration will be happening in this gate. So as you're listening, you can kind of think about that as it relates to this energy a little bit. But basically, gate 60 is a Capricorn and Aquarius gate, linking the two together. And I think that's really interesting when we have a gate that links 2 signs together, especially when we're looking at slower moving planets in that gate. And I mention this because Pluto, our lovely lord of the underworld, has moved into Aquarius, but is still in this cusp gate in human design, I Ching wheel, the gate of acceptance, and hasn't moved into that first full gate of Aquarius season yet. Pluto will in late January, end of the month, this month. But right now, Pluto is in gate 60, and on the inauguration day, the sun will be conjunct Pluto in gate 60, and that's really a highlighting of that underworldly kind of subterranean nature. Not to freak anyone out more than we already are, because it doesn't have to be seen that way, but just some good information to go into that day with. The sun will be conjunct Pluto. So the gate of acceptance, aka limitations in the I Ching, is living in the root center in the body graph, like many of the Capricorn gates. And so the root center is one of the energy centers of the body that is about kind of providing pressure to act. And so this is very tied in with the themes of kind of like Mars retrograde in Cancer and the full moon this week, because we are feeling a distinct pressure to act from a lot of different angles, but also being encouraged to embrace like the mystery and the unknown and create spaciousness for new things to emerge. And so that does feel weird in the body, right? It feels like, what do I do with that? Like I want to move, I want to act. And that's why things as simple as breath work, things as simple as taking a walk can be really the most effective thing right now. Because we're kind of being hit from multiple angles to do different things. But gate 60, has a pressure to kind of embrace the limitations of the world, embrace what is finite and imperfect in life, and find strength to work within current boundaries and restrictions. So 60 invites us to accept the natural rhythms of life in both its highs and its lows and its pauses, and trust in the potential for growth within the rhythms, within the cycles. The energy of gate 60 is about learning to work with limitations instead of resisting them. And I know this is not what we want to be hearing, at least I don't, for the United States presidential inauguration and kind of all of the wheels that are falling off with, Meta and face, like all of the things that are happening in the world right now. I can't even elaborate on details, but there's so much intensity and seeming limitation, right? There's a lot of things that are limiting freedom, a lot of things that are limiting us in so many ways. And so to be told by this ancient text to accept those limitations this week in particular is a little bit like, what? No, I don't know. Thanks. I don't want to. But bear with me here. We will get through this. And there's certainly a frustration to this energy, right? There's limitations are external circumstances or personal challenges, or even just like letting time pass in the way that it's passing can all feel like limitations. When I think about it in the metaphor of Capricorn trudging up the mountain and then getting there and being like, the great mystery, then it's kind of like you see all the potential in that mystery of like, oh my God, there's a mountain over there, and there's the ocean, and there's like a constellation, and there's all these things that I want to go do and see. And then you like look down at your feet and you're like, your little goat hoof feet, and you're like, oh my God, I'm still on the mountain. And gravity. Hey, gravity is a limitation. I can't just like fly. I can't just lift off and get up to the mystery, up to the clouds and the stars and the sea and the other side of the planet. Like, not yet. And the way I see it is that that's what Aquarius wants to do. Aquarius, the water bearer, wants to connect things together, wants to provide a network between disparate nodes. And so here we are, the goat at the top of the mountain being like, but gravity, like shit, I should probably start building an airship or like learn about some kind of quantum transport procedure or something. And so this is this image that I really see being just like, that is the limitation. The 60 is also the gate before the rave new year in human design. And in the human design wheel of the year, gate 41, which is coming next week, the sun is transiting through next week, is the new, where they celebrate the new year. And so this is like the final gate before the new beginning, a new era, a new cycle. So being up here with the limitations of gravity, with the limitations of time, with the limitations of the current systems that we live within, we have the sun here and Pluto here. And Pluto hasn't ever been here in our lifetimes and won't ever again in our lifetimes because he has a 248 year cycle. And so we're in this kind of frequency, this kind of background energy with Pluto as being the outer planet of our solar system. And it is giving this energy of we are at the end of the time of accepting limitations, and we're about ready to move into the gate of contractions, which is gate 41 next week with the sun, and then the end of January with Pluto. And that is all about the contractions of birth, the contractions that happen before we give birth to something new. And being a mother, that feels very real to me. Contractions lasted like 20 hours or so for me. And it's a huge part of the birth process. Not necessarily comfortable either, don't get me wrong. It's not like the dawn of a new day where everything's bright and shiny. But it is the beginning of something new being birthed. So we're at the end here of gate 60, where we have the sun in gate 60, Pluto in gate 60 through the weekend and into next week. And it is providing us an opportunity to look at our current situation clearly. Like, limitations can be so easy to just feel emotion towards, or feel constrained by, or feel frustrated with, and just to like ignore or to try to push away, like ignore the reality of the limitation, or just get mad at it. And this gate this weekend through next week can provide an opportunity to see that within every boundary lies the seed of innovation and transformation. This is deep winter, deep yin, deep underground, deep soil creation. And we are able here, before any type of contractions of new beginnings happen, to just sit with it and say, wow, this is really worth moving beyond. It's worth creating the airship to soar off our current mountain rather than climbing back down it and walking around, like, let's create something new. So when it's used well, gate 60 becomes a powerful source of resilience and acceptance. And it teaches us that limitations are not obstacles, but rather catalysts for evolution and creativity. I also like to think of gate 60 as the womb. We're talking about birth and dawning of a new era and the birth of a new reality. The womb is the container. The womb is the constraint. The womb is the frustrating constraint. When you get to be a giant baby in a womb, you're like, get me out of here. But you're also recognizing, like, wow, this is the thing that feeds me. Even though I'm ready to eat in a new way, I want to like get some milk. I don't want to have an umbilical situation anymore. It is still right now in gate 60 in the womb before the contractions start happening to ultimately push you out. And you're like, oh, this is limiting, but I'm going to accept that this has been the container that has fed me, even if I don't like it anymore, even if I'm ready for something totally new. Like, let's acknowledge, let's see this as, give gratitude to it, and then move forward, move on. In the Gene Keys, the shadow is limitation. The gift is realism, and the city is justice. And this also feels really relevant this week. Justice is being talked about a lot. And so if we look at the shadow, we can see accepting limitation, being told to do that as manifesting as frustration and resistance, and just like the feeling of being trapped within our own skin or within a system. And then there's a tendency to fight against limitations and see them as barriers. And that can, when there's a really strong like societal barrier, or the barrier of the womb, or the barrier of gravity, when you're fighting against something like that, it's really easy to hurt yourself, like feel like you're hitting a wall and struggling to break free and not actually getting anywhere. And it's just deeply frustrating. When we move into the gift frequency of realism, it's about embracing limitations with grace and shifting the energy through finding, as hard as it is, finding some kind of gratitude for how that limitation that you're now recognizing as a limitation has fed you at one point in the past. And it's really seeing reality in a clear way that then enables you to find creative and practical ways to work within the boundaries and work beyond the boundaries and transcend them. Realism, I kind of hate that word because it has so many definitions, right? But in this case, realism is not about giving up. It's about finding the beauty and the potential in what currently is, even if we're ready to be done with it, right? And then the city level, the transcendent level of this gate 60 is justice. And it's about transcending personal frustration and tapping into a universal sense of balance. Justice here is the recognition that everything happens for a reason and that there's perfection even within the limitation. And it's a deep acceptance of the natural rhythms of life, the small rhythms of the moon, the larger cycles of Saturn and Pluto, and just trying to kind of like zoom in and zoom out. And, you know, I feel a little guilty even saying like everything happens for a reason in times like this, because some things are the fault of greedy people. Like, let's just be real about that. It's not all kumbaya by any means, but there is something to be said for finding gratitude just a little bit. Like, I am grateful that the fires in LA broke out with a bit of warning and not in the middle of the night. Like, the fire that I was in broke out at 3 a.m, and I was hanging outside of a window at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. and didn't have any warning, right? And so it could have been a lot worse in that sense as far as human lives. And so there's something to be grateful for even amidst all the devastation. And in the I Ching, hexagram 60 is known as limitation as well. And this hexagram is speaking to the necessity of boundaries and structures in life. And it teaches that freedom comes not from breaking all limits, but from understanding them and then using them to our advantage. Limitations, when they're embraced, can create a framework within which growth and transformation can occur. So the I Ching reminds us that limitations aren't here to restrict us, but to teach us patience and discipline and trust in life's unfolding. So I like to look at this, again, deep winter season as a season of soil creation, a season of kind of like activity happening under the ground. So even when the plants and flowers are dead above ground, there's a lot of activity happening with the soil being created. And the soil, like the womb, that dark space, is a container. It's a framework. It's like a network of so many things that have converged together to make it possible for something new to be born out of it. So if we really just look at this moment in time as a kind of a clusterfuck, let's be real, kind of a just a wild time, right? It's like the darkness before the dawn. I truly choose to believe that, and especially based on all of these ancient teachings that we can see in the Wheel of the Year, and looking at the sun being there and Pluto being there, and it's really just, a time where I think a lot of us have decided that fighting against the restrictions in the way that we were doing several years ago isn't working, right? And so it's not acceptance. This gate is not about giving up at all, and it's not about collapsing or getting lazy. It's about finding power within the present moment and recognizing that creation of soil to birth a new world takes so much time, and time is that limitation. And the longer you let it sit and simmer and the compost and like all of the elements of the soil gel, the better the soil will be to maintain and sustain a new reality. And so there's a lot of beautiful things happening, like the community support and mutual aid networks that I'm seeing across the board in Los Angeles, and just seeing how people really are caring so much for their neighbors is showing me hope so much about how this soil it's already ready. We're ready for something new, and we're not going to just accept defeat, and we're not going to stay in the womb forever. So accepting the natural flow of life, including the pauses and the limitations and the waiting. And so don't resist, just try to use this as a time to gain clarity and see your inner power to transform. And exercise your creative muscles. I always like thinking of creativity as a muscle that we can exercise, and that's what we have to do right now. Wow. So with that, I will move on to the interview, the conversation with Lily Hussey, astrologer, witch, jeweler, artist, beautiful human. I hope you enjoy our conversation about the gates of Capricorn season as we wrap up the season of the Sea Goat here in the Wheel of the Year. And definitely check out Lily's work after the show on her website, and I'll post that in the show notes as well. Thanks for listening to a long episode this week, and thanks so much for subscribing and being a part of this tracking of the Wheel of the Year, embodying the Wheel of the Year. It's so nice to have you here. And here is the conversation with Lily Hussey. So I'm sitting here with Lily Hussey, who's a friend of mine and an astrologer, a jeweler, an artist, a magic maker. And we're just sitting here in Santa Fe where we both live. And we're excited to talk about a lot of the gates of Capricorn season today. Because Lily, although her birthday is in Pisces season, she's a Pisces sun, has many, many activations in Capricorn.
So much Capricorn.
Yeah, so welcome.
So happy to be here. Super excited.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yay! So Lily is an amazing astrologer who has a publication on Substack called The Stellar Situation, which I just love that name.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'd love if you could just introduce yourself a little bit and talk about kind of beyond the stellar situation, like what are you up to in the world of astrology and beyond?
Yeah, totally. I would love to. I am also a jeweler, and I really have been combining astrology and jewelry and witchcraft. I feel like I last year finally realized, I'm a jewelry witch. And I like to utilize astrological magic and the specific transits and ingresses to create talismanic jewelry. So right now I'm getting ready to work on a bunch of Venus stuff while Venus is exalted in Pisces. So I'm super excited about that. And then it'll come out later this year. So that's one of my big passions. And I do the Stellar Situation, my weekly newsletter, and other witchy magic making stuff. And I love sharing ritual and bringing astrological magic into my astrological shares with people.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I first met you, or I first became aware of you at an art fair actually here in Santa Fe, where some mutual friend of ours, it might have been Jesse Greenspan, came up to me because I was kind of new to back in Santa Fe, and so was making some art but hadn't really done any of the like crafts markets, and did one where I had a little bit of kind of astrological symbolism on my jackets and things like that, and Jesse was like, "Do you know Lily? She's like art and astrology." And I was like, "No, I don't, but that sounds amazing." Yes. And I went to your booth and was like, "Oh my God, your calendars. You do these beautiful collage calendars for each year with all the astrological ingresses and everything." And then, your beautiful talismans and jewelry that really contains so much meaning and vibrancy. So,
Awesome. Yeah, that is such a good, I love that that's our connection point. Totally.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's just fun to know different astrologers in town and artists and people who are kind of thinking the same way. And
it is.
Yeah.
There's been some fun. We have a good little community here, and it's just fun to connect and like understand everyone's niche and be inspired by it. And I'm so inspired by what you're doing and we were talking earlier about leaning into our mutability and doing all the things, and I love how your practice combines so many esoteric practices together. It's just so inspiring to me.
Oh, thank you. Well, you're so inspiring to me as well. I mean, honestly, just, yeah, the physical, tangible, like fashion and just like beauty oriented nature of your work, and how you can hold something from the cosmos in your own hands or wear it on your body is like so cool. How did you come across this or get into this type of work?
Yeah, well, I think one of my Capricorn placements is my Venus in Capricorn, and to me that's like really, I also am a Cancer rising, so between those two things I think I've always just been very obsessed with like the idea of an heirloom, and I just cherish like my grandmother's jewelry. Like I'm wearing my great grandmother's wedding ring right now, and my other grandmother's 50th anniversary ring. Like I've worn my other grandmother's turquoise ring like my entire life. Like those pieces have had so much meaning to me, and from that has sprung my kind of from that has sprung my obsession with the idea of ritual adornment, and how whether or not you're actively realizing or participating in a ritual when you're putting on your adornment, whether it's your clothing or your jewelry, like it is a ritual, and we reach for certain things for certain reasons, right? And so bringing that kind of intentionality into my jewelry, I've been making jewelry since like 2008. Like, remember when feather jewelry was big?
Oh yeah, I still wear it because
yes, I love feather jewelry. That was like my start off point.
Nice.
I went to school in Northern California. This is a funny side story. And I would work in the art studio at night. The janitor of the art studio, his other job was that he worked at a pheasant farm, and he would bring me feathers, and that's where my first jewelry business started. So anyways, I've just always been really interested in how jewelry, clothing becomes a part of our rituals, and that's always informed my practice. But in the last like 5-ish years, I have studied and become really interested in astrological magic, and so that has been kind of the motivation to bring that into the jewelry, because it's kind of already the perspective I was taking with jewelry, but now just imbuing it with even more intention and magic and ritual.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm actually wearing my grandmother's ring right now too.
I love that.
Yeah, and I wear it every day, and it's
that's
so meaningful to
beautiful.
me. Yeah, it's one of those things where like, just having something with ritual and with meaning that's, a symbol that every time you look at it or just feel it on your hand, it's like, it brings so much to that moment.
Right.
So, so you're talking about Venus exalted in Pisces, which Venus just entered Pisces. And so tell me about your process of, creating as much as you can share. I know it's probably a very personal thing, but like kind of the process of looking at the planetary situations and seeing how that would work with magic and adornment.
Totally, yeah. Well, let's see, I think I really started this process of building out these collections maybe 3 years ago. One of the struggles in jewelry business for me is like the ebb and flow of inspiration and production and how those things work together. And bringing this into my business and practice has been really helpful, because I know there's always going to be built-in periods of brainstorming and creativity rather than just like pure production and selling. So it creates a nice balance and structure for me and my Capricorn stellium. So I kind of think about what I'm making like a sigil. Like I'm drawing down the energy from the planet and creating, rather than just a drawn sigil, like it's a 3-dimensional sigil. And I'll work with that when I'll take a look and choose some auspicious times within the cycle of when a planet is in a certain sign, and choose some time to kind of play around with that and then refine it and get super clear. And usually during that time too, I'll also make like a drawn sigil that relates to the aspect of the planet that I'm wanting to pull into the jewelry, and then I'll engrave that onto my final piece so that it just is like really coming all together. So with Venus, it's probably my most built out collection at this point. I have like a pair of earrings that are for harmony that have they're kind of like mismatched. And I think like when we think of harmony, we're like, oh, this is like naturally goes together and it should be easeful. But I was wanting to come at it from the perspective of like harmony being like things you wouldn't expect going together, coming together to create something new and beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And that's why those were kind of like mismatched. I also this last year in 2024 made a bunch of jewelries with 7, which is Venus's planetary number, which I love, and incorporated lockets into those that have a spell for attraction and magnetizing something towards you, another great quality of Venus. So right now I'm kind of thinking about other aspects of Venus that I haven't necessarily tapped into for making jewelry. So during this ingress, I'm planning on making pieces that are around receptivity and allowing ourselves to more easily receive and be in flow and like Piscean flow. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for this round. But it is like in combination with things I've already made that make sense and relate to that planetary energy, and then also thinking about the current transit.
Oh,
and
cool.
This time around too, Venus will be conjunct, we'll have Venus conjunct Neptune. So I'm excited to think about something dreamy and special for that.
Ooh,
too.
Lovely. Yeah, right. I mean, flow seems like a really good word for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love the words that you just brought up for Venus. I think you didn't mention love or romance, you know,
Yeah.
It's like harmony and magnetism and, you know, these types of things. I think working with, tangible physical elements can really help bring forth these different qualities that aren't necessarily just reading the same word on the page again and again.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, astrology can get a little flattened. Like, I love astrology. It's my first love. Like, astrology changed my life and my understanding of myself, being raised by a Capricorn mom and being a Pisces sun. But I think it can get really flattened, and that's part of what is really fun and like part of the challenge of this jewelry practice, knowing that I will always be building out the collection and continuing to think of new ways in which that planetary energy supports us.
Right, yeah. So do you encourage people who purchase or are gifted these items to wear them for these kind of specific magical reasons?
Totally, yeah. And kind of it's in 2024 I moved into like being really out as a witch and not really hiding and telling people explicitly there's spells in those lockets, and that's been fun because It's also then creating conversation and encouraging people to activate it themselves, and that's the direction I'd really like to move in 2025. Something I am aiming to move towards is like working with people or maybe doing workshops where we're like enchanting your jewelry together and really leveling up that idea of ritual adornment. And that's a huge like historical part of astrological magic, is enchanting something you already own. So kind of bringing that into my practice too is something I'm looking forward to doing.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
So 2024 was the year of coming out of the witch's broom closet for you.
in a bigger way. It's been like a many years slow journey, like every year just a little bit more, but this felt like the most out year, like yelling at children at art markets, like, don't touch those lockets, there's a spell in them. It felt like really peak Auntie Witch energy.
Yes, Auntie Witch, I love that. That's so awesome. Yeah, I'd love to hear a little more about your journey with astrology and witchcraft in general. I mean, you said that astrology is your oldest love, and I'm so curious about that. Yeah, Pisces with the Capricorn mom. So we're kind of here to talk about Capricorn season. So yeah, what was that like for you?
Well, when I was quite young, I was like a very sensitive, introverted child, and really afraid to speak up. And I'm an only child. At that time in my life, my mom was a horse trainer. I don't know if anyone listening has horse people in their life, but they're an intense group of people. And I think I was like 7 or 8, and I had a babysitter who said to my mom, you need to be gentler with her. She's a Pisces, she's sensitive. And I was like, wait, what is this? Like, there's language for this. You're also the way you're talking about it, like it's okay to be those things, right? Which is they're not qualities we necessarily value in society, especially like not in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Sensitivity, that was a hard one.
Yeah. So it was like the beginning of my interest, and I was also a child who was really obsessed with mythology and Greek and Roman mythology, and that created such a nice bedrock. I feel like that's a like common flow, like the mythology girlies become astrologers, all of them. So yeah, that was kind of like my seed, and it's something I've always studied a little bit and been interested in and talked about with people, and I've always been everyone's like esoteric friend, but it's always been more of a party trick type thing. And I've dabbled in all of the different practices, but probably I got more serious about studying astrology in like 2015, 2016, and it's also when I got more serious about studying witchcraft. I love to joke that, my mom raised me to be a witch, but not like intentionally. Like she can like commune with spirits with like nobody's business, and she can also just be like, she doesn't actually want to, and she's like, okay, leave us alone. So that's like my whole childhood was like, the lights are flickering, it's probably grandma, hi, we don't want to hang out. But there was like no other acknowledgement of it. It was like persistent but not talked about or taught, but always present.
Interesting.
So it's something that's always been there for me, but I needed to have my own journey and self-study with it, which started in my like mid-20s.
Nice.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Do you have a relationship with your mother now that involves magic and and talking? Yeah.
She's so into her astrology. She's my best salesperson in jewelry. We're really close. It was just me and her until I was 8 years old, and I'm an only child, so we're just like best friends, and she really loves all my stuff. She always wants to hear about it, and she's like become the queen of building altars and is always doing little bits of sympathetic magic for her friends, and like whenever anything's going on, her friends are like, will you build me an altar? And I love to see it, and she tells me about it. It's really sweet. Like I said, it's like always been there for her, but I think me really being that has brought it out for her in a different way.
Yeah, given her permission. You were given permission to be the sensitive Pisces, or have that part of you honored, and then through doing that, maybe you were able to honor her and what she was already bringing to the table.
Totally.
But yeah, I think when you have a kid, sometimes it's hard to, at least personally speaking, it's hard to know like how much you want to imprint on them. And kids are, of course, there to be imprinted upon and to learn from their parents and adults around them. But I think for me, I was like a little bit tiptoey with my daughter about like, I don't want to like pigeonhole her into any way. I want her to choose her own interests. But she has proclaimed herself a witch before I think before I did, when she was like 2. She's like, yeah, Mom, of course I'm a witch. And I was like, oh, well, me too. Yeah. Right. So yeah, it's like that. Yeah, it really shows how non-linear time is when you're working with like the parent-child relationship in that way.
That's so cute. I love that so much.
Yeah. I loved hearing that story about you and your mom. But your discovery of astrology and mythology, definitely. It's really helpful to have that background in mythology. And I went through it, and then I kind of just completely stopped being interested in mythology for whatever reason. And so learning astrology and then the myths through that really helped me kind of crack open these like latent memories of like when I was, from a young age, of being like, oh, I do know this. And like that story is within me, but not consciously maybe. And
I love that. Yeah, there's kind of like, because I don't know, at least in that era of like public school, I remember learning about mythology in public school, which is like what led me down the path. So in some ways, like connecting with that is always such like a joy of the inner child for me, which is a sweet surprise.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's so cool. Well, it sounds like I do identify with your Pisces sun in a big way, and the sensitivity and the storytelling and the magic and the mutability. But I'm curious, since we are here deep in Capricorn season, and you have your beanie on, and it is very wintry and blustery outside, and we're in this, I've been talking about Capricorn over the past several episodes of the show, and feel really kind of like I'm understanding the story arc. And like you were mentioning it, maybe different adjectives for Venus. It's like, for me, looking at astrology through the lens of kind of these gates of the I Ching and human design, kind of just open up like a little another picture to this kind of story arc or what's going on within a season. And so I've been super fascinated and really, especially in Capricorn season, because it has been a very poignant season, I guess. I've been just, opening up like my understanding of Capricorn and kind of getting beyond the stereotypes in a bigger way. And so I'd love to just hear what like how you resonate. What are your feelings about the sign in general? And you have, I guess we could list them out. You have Uranus and Neptune and Saturn and Mars and Venus. That's 5 planets in. And
do we get Saturn in there? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Because, I'm looking at your human design chart, and you have some design and personality. So I just want to make sure that it's right. But the design chart is the chart of 88 days before you were born. So it's kind of the end of the second trimester, beginning of the third trimester chart. Cool. So as if you were born at that point, it casts the chart for you and plugs that into the body graph. So human design has like almost 2 birth charts that you're working with.
Interesting.
Yes, and so you have some of your design design placements in there, meaning your prenatal placements that would make sense because the outer planets like Neptune, Saturn, Uranus are moving fairly slowly, so they would be there 3 months before, most likely, right?
Right.
But anyway, you have a lot of activity, a lot of action on that side of the chart. And how do you resonate with Capricorn?
Yeah. I love Capricorn, and in my own chart, I think I have had a journey of love-hate when I think a lot of people with strong Capricorn placements can, I hear that a lot. I really have enjoyed what you've been sharing about Capricorn through the lens of human design, because I feel like Capricorn is one of those signs that gets really flattened, and it's all about being like the boss babe and the entrepreneur, and it totally is, but it's so much more dynamic than that. And my favorite thing to say to people about Capricorn is like, hello, it has a mermaid tail. It's a mythological creature. Like, it's not just about climbing up to the top of the mountain. Like, there's this like deep creativity and intuition and like connection with the animal body, and the reminder like that sometimes maybe the fastest way there is actually swimming, and you're like gonna meet some mermaids along the way, and it's gonna be like creative and inspiring, instead of just always feeling like you have to like climb these insurmountable mountains, which sometimes Capricorn can push us to feel, in my experience. And I think particularly in my chart, I have a pretty close conjunction between Mars, Saturn, and then Saturn, Venus on the other side. And so that can feel, like I'm not enough at times, which is definitely feels one of the shadow aspects of Capricorn. But then there's also so much creativity and beauty and like understanding of the value of beauty that I also attribute to those placements in my chart. It's very dualistic. It's also like, Capricorn's not going to thrive solely on land or solely in water. So even though it is a cardinal sign, there's like this mutable nature to it.
I love that. That's so beautiful. I love that idea, that the mermaid, Capricorn. Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily put those two in the same sentence because it's all like work.
Yeah.
But
business mermaid.
Yes, business mermaid. I love that. That's a beautiful image. Yeah, I love mermaids.
Me too.
I'm a fan. Yeah, that fishtail, that swimming around. I mean, having the option, right? I love that idea that it's not just the mountain is there. You know you can get to the top. It's there for you. Yeah. But also, like you said, maybe the quickest path or the more desirable one is to swim, and you have that option too. Yeah. And that's so cool. I remember you saying that a little while ago when we were hanging out. Yeah. The little Santa Fe Astro group.
Yeah.
Talking about, you're like, oh yeah, that's how I see it. I was like, oh cool, I want to have you on the show to talk about Capricorn, because I love that image of just, the mutability within the initiation.
Yeah, and I think that's also, I mean, when I think of Capricorn, I think of just how capable Capricorn energy is, right? And that's part of it, is like the multidimensionality, like, oh, like you need me to be a carpenter, I can do that, but I can also set stones or whatever, right? Which kind of speaks to that being in the water and being on land and being able to like thrive in a multitude of things. So yeah, I think that's like one of the biggest energies I think about with Capricorn is capability.
Definitely. Right. Outward capability, inward capability. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that I've never really thought about this, but crab Cancer is also able to exist outside of the,
That's so
in and out of the
true.
water, but maybe like not as deep into the water or as far out onto the land. They're kind of on the shore, but they're still both in and out in that way. So
That's really
it really
interesting.
highlights that axis that you have. You said Cancer rising. Yeah, that's super interesting.
That's so interesting. That creates a whole new dynamic thinking about the Cancer Capricorn axis.
Right, and that they're similar, but one's maybe closer to home. I mean, Cancer is all about the home and family, and then one's kind of going out further to see the darker depths and the, you know, the higher peaks and that kind of thing. But yeah, I had never thought of that either, but it's cool.
I really like that. Yeah, that really changes it softens that axis in a way.
Right. When you can bring similarity into the axes, I feel like it helps to like not make them as much of like, oh my God, a full moon and this season's going to be just like so different from each other, you know, because full moons can feel like intense, or any kind of oppositions can feel so intense because you're like, I cannot reconcile the differences between these two things, you know. Yeah. So having just like a little languaging, that's going to help me too, for sure.
I love this realization for all of us.
Totally. Yeah. Well, you know, Capricorn, you have, I can read out, your Uranus is in the gate of vitality or joy in human design. So are you familiar with your human design chart a little bit? Or?
So briefly. Less so like with the gates. So this is all really intriguing. And I'm so interested and excited to hear from you. I was like surprised and delighted to see that like the gate of joy is part of Capricorn season.
Yeah, it's also known as the gate of vitality, which kind of makes maybe a little more sense as far as how we would typically describe Capricorn. Like you said, capable, vital, like able to do the things. But it's also known as the gate of joy, and it's kind of about, you know, maybe having struggle until you recognize that joy is around us always, like, right, kind of being dissatisfied and like knowing that things could be improved all around, but then that's leading us to like understand joy. And that's I really like that gate because it's like around Christmas time, and I liked that there was joy around, you know, because sometimes it's like, oh, is this just a made-up holiday, or you know, the solstice, just are we bringing light in because it's actually so dark and we have to bring the light in? But it is, I think, having that gate there really feels like, oh no, there's like this ability to kind of flip the script on like dissatisfaction and like constant need for improvement to just like, where is joy in the current moment?
It's really interesting. Also, I think a lot for myself about I joke that your toxic trait, if you have a lot of Capricorn placement, is that you want to turn all of your hobbies into businesses.
Totally. Yes.
Which is like something I'm always contending with myself. And one of the things I think about for myself all the time with my Capricorn placements and how I'm contending with them, and like, am I doing enough? And is it keeping me from doing other things better or whatever, is leaning into the Saturnian idea of having just good discernment and like cutting things out sometimes, and how much joy discernment creates. And like also the reminder to like create space, which is like kind of an interesting tie into this vitality and joy. It's like how having the ability to lean into the Capricorn being ruled by Saturn allows more space, even though Capricorn energy might be wanting to fill the agenda all the time, right?
Right, totally. Yeah, because you're capable. It's like, well, if somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
There's a world to be saved.
Yeah, I can do all of it.
Yeah. You know, and I love that we were talking about before we got online about like, wanting to not feel shame about doing too much, because it's kind of like you have this mutable nature. I mean, highlighting the mutability within Capricorn, and then being a mutable Pisces, and even highlighting the Cancerian mutability of being in and out of the water, is like this idea that like it's okay to start businesses out of all your hobbies, maybe, but maybe not like all, like not to the extent where like it's decreasing the joy.
Leave something for joy,
right? Yeah, like if everything's a business that has to be tended to in a way that's like, oh God, this is stressing me out, But if you, again, I think it's like that capable adjective where it's like, well, if you are feeling capable and you want to, don't just shut things out because you feel like you have to, it's always that.
And it can be a one-off, right? Like sometimes I think that's part of the struggle, is like the Saturnian influence being like, all right, we're doing this forever. It's like, you don't have to do it forever. And maybe you're like, you try out turning one of your hobbies into a business and it's great for 3 months and then you're done.
Yes, gosh, the ability to do that. No, that is so important. I mean, even what you were saying, I asked if you had any New Year's resolutions or if you're a resolution person, and you're like, no, but I am starting a challenge each month.
Yeah.
I love that, because then it's like, it's like a limited time only. It doesn't have to be forever. It doesn't have to be like, this year I will do this. Because I mean, even for me doing like a tarot spread for the year of like the clock of 12 ahead, I'm like, I can't keep track of 12 data points or like 12 images in my head. I'm like, I just can't. So I'll do like the quarter ahead and be like,
I love that.
Like, okay, I want to look a little bit, but, and maybe, I don't know, like mix it up so it's not like, having to be forever. I think that's definitely a shadow of Saturn, and Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So that makes sense that it would be like the onward and upward forever.
Yeah. Like, let's normalize seasonal things.
That's such a cool idea. Can you tell me a little bit more about that now here on air?
Yeah, totally. So, this is like not an astrology thing at all, but for my day job, I'm a social media manager, and one of my clients, I was doing some content and copy around New Year's resolutions. So I was like doing a deep dive on that, and I don't really love New Year's resolutions in general for myself, but 90% of people fail their New Year's resolutions by March, which is like not surprising. But what is interesting to me about that as a data point is that you only get through the winter. Like, it's a seasonal thing. Like, of course your goals and ambitions are going to change once you hit spring.
Right.
Like, you're a completely different person. You're ready to like be awakened, and like so your goal was to like read 50 books, but now like the sun is shining and your goal is to go outside and hike. Like, why don't we just normalize adjusting our goals? And I have gotten into this discourse with people before about like, but it's Capricorn season, we should be setting goals. And I'm like, absolutely. Let's talk about goals for the season ahead. Capricorn season, Aquarius season, Pisces season, and then let's talk again in Aries season. Like, it just makes so much more sense to me.
Totally. Yes. That's a beautiful way. I mean, I think that's so magic right there. I'm going to take that one and steal it. Because I like the idea of, I love the opportunity for new beginnings. And like, so I'm not like an anti-New Year's person. Totally. I'm just like, let's just add on another New Year's. Like, I'll take this Gregorian one, and then also the astrological one, and the lunar one, and a couple of those, just like bring it. And that doesn't mean like completely resetting or like waiting all the time for something to happen, but it's more so just like, there are different seasons and meaningful moments in the year to talk about these things. And
it's like, it's not so binary. It's not all or nothing, right? Which I think is part of like what the Gregorian New Year's gives us, and is like, well, this is it. Are you going to set this resolution, and are you going to fail? And it's like, wow, like maybe you need to go for a swim before you climb the mountain, and it's complex.
Beautiful. Great idea. Yeah. And then you make it a marathon. It's like triathlon.
Yeah, totally.
And then like a little rest in between.
Totally.
Yeah. Super interesting. I mean, it's funny how hard it is to, at least for me, to like tap into what it feels like to be in another season when I'm in the one I'm in. When I'm like in this like cozy, my body feels just so different that I can't imagine having a goal of like being outside because I just don't want to be outside right now, and it's one of those things that you almost do have to wait until the moment, and you can kind of like astral project into another season, but it is really a bit of a challenge to like, it's kind of like when you're sick, imagining being healthy is challenging.
Totally.
When you're really like healthy, you can't really imagine what it was just like to be sick, and so I think coming from that embodied perspective, it's like, play it as it lies, like be where you are.
100%. But it's such like it's a modern concept, this like, and it's like very corporate and anti-human in my opinion to just like be planning out a year ahead. It feels like so rooted in capitalism, and maybe that's me like in my corporate background as well, but like we have so many systems set up for us that are like meant to look at things in a smaller way. And if you think about like humans historically living by the moon, like that's not a very long cycle, and then a lunar from new moon to full moon in the same sign's only 6 months. Like that's what we're used to doing. It's so dissonant to do it this other way, I think.
Right. Yeah, I know. Time. I mean, I really do feel like astrology is just really just the study of time or the understanding of time. And there's lots of different ways to understand time, even within astrology.
Totally.
Like there's these lunar cycles. There's like each monthly lunar cycle, and there's like every 6 months is the same, the parallel and opposite moon. And then there's like Saturnian Chronos time, right? Which is like, is that long-term time. Totally. And that is often associated with Capricorn is like in the winter, maybe we are thinking ahead to summer more than in the summer. Like in the summer, we're like, I don't want to look ahead to winter. Let's be on lunar time. And that's when Cancer season is, right? Yeah. Which is like, okay, let's live moon to moon, and that's fine. There's like fruits to be plucked and eaten at that time. Yes. But now it's like, oh wait, when is summer? Like tapping the watch, like waiting for it. And so maybe planning a little bit ahead. So, it's just taking all of these as like beautiful ways that we can work with time in different seasons.
Yeah, and they all have their purpose. I guess that's like the thing is like the answer is all of them. Yeah. Right? Instead of just like rooting into one system or one practice or one resolution even.
Right, yeah. I mean, when it comes to that Saturnian time, do you find yourself to be like a planner with all your Capricorn placements?
I feel like I'm a really horrible combination of plan, no plan person. I need the structure available to me, and I need the option to not utilize it.
Options are, I've seen this come up as a theme. Yeah, totally. Yeah, right. Knowing it's there. Yeah, but then swim into the other side of the mountain instead of climbing it. Love that.
Like, I love a plan. I think sometimes I'm ambitious to a fault, and I have to remind myself that I created the plan and there's flexibility.
Yes. Beautiful. Yeah, ambitious to a fault. That's another. So we can talk a little bit about another couple of gates that you have active in your human design chart within Capricorn. You have Neptune and Saturn in the gate of the fighter.
Okay.
And we talked about that a couple weeks ago on the show. And then last week, or actually currently, the sun is transiting through the gate of ambition or drive, gate 54. Yes, and then this upcoming weekend, or I guess if anybody out there's listening to this, we will currently be in the gate of mystery, which is how I see it. It's kind of like you have all of these other gates of like the story arc I like to tell about Capricorn through the lens of human design is it starts in the gate of behavior of the self or self-love at the solstice. That's kind of where we are at the solstice. And then it moves on to that vitality or joy around the Christmas time season. And then we move into the gate of the fighter or perseverance in the gene keys. And then the gate of aspiration or the gate of ambition. And then to me, all of those are like the first two are like self-love and joy are about like finding that inner resolve to be able to climb the mountain. And then the next two, the fighter and ambition, are kind of like, all right, I'm going to start climbing the mountain and fight my way, like go through obstacles and enjoy the process of making my way through the obstacles in the case of the fighter. And then the case of ambition is like, oh, we're getting closer to the top and I'm getting tireder and it's harder, but I can see the top ahead of this mountain. mountain, and I need like the most inner resolve and ambition and aspirational focus to really get there.
Yes.
And then the last one, the last full gate of Capricorn season is mystery. And to me, that kind of, the visual I see is like you reach the top of the mountain and you can see the sea down below that you came from, and you can see just the whole landscape around you and the clouds and the sky and the stars and just everything out there. And then we move into Aquarius season with the gate of acceptance, which is now where Pluto currently is in the sky. So it's like the transitionary gate between Capricorn and Aquarius. And that's about kind of like accepting that you are on this mountaintop and you're not back in the sea, and you're not on a different mountaintop, and you're not like, there is gravity. You're not able to like float and be everywhere at once. Like I think Aquarius moving into that season kind of wants to be in all the places, like the node based, like all the, connecting everything together. Totally. So I think that this gate at the end of Capricorn season is kind of interesting, because it's like, oh wait, we have limitations. We are kind of confined to our current experience, but we can still see out and know that there is something beyond the current mountain that we're on. So anyway, that's my little spiel. That's my kind of like story arc visual for,
I love
for
that.
Capricorn. And yeah, I kind of just knowing about the sea goat and just seeing that. I love visual imagery too. So like looking up pictures of the sea goat in all of its representations through the ages, and then kind of having that in my head as I go through these gates and tell the story. I'm just like, I can imagine this being the path, right, and the journey.
Totally.
So yeah,
that's so beautiful. I love that idea of the gate of mystery in there too. Like,
that's an interesting one for Capricorn. They wouldn't always, you'd be like, isn't that supposed to be in Pisces? Like,
right?
That doesn't feel necessarily Capricorn.
Totally. That's one of the Capricorn members that has a tail.
Right. Yeah, and that's where your Venus and Saturn are in the gate of mystery.
Okay, cool.
So you have Neptune and your design Saturn in the fighter, and then you have Mars, your personality or your birth chart Mars in ambition, and then Venus and Saturn in mystery. So you're kind of stacked from joy, fighter, ambition, mystery, and
I love it.
I mean, I'm curious, like just reading these words out, how. You did mention ambition, being an ambitious person.
Ambition is something I'm always struggling with. I mean, will you tell me what planets were in there again?
For ambition, you have Mars.
Mars, okay. Yeah. I mean, I feel like in general, I lean on my Mars as a crutch a lot. Mars in Capricorn is such a capable Mars and really good at procrastinating, because you can just get stuff done. But ambition is an interesting and tricky thing for me, both my own ambition and working about judgments I have about other people's ambition or lack of ambition in my perception. That's like something I've worked through a lot in life, so it's an interesting both shadow and light thing for me that's always present and quite dynamic, honestly. So that's a fascinating one for me. I really like and relate and intrigued by the gate of the fighter, with having my rising and my sun both be water signs, and my moon is in Aquarius. I like get along with people. People think I'm a nice person, and then I'm like, there's a fighter in there, though, don't forget. So I really had fun thinking about that and relating to that when you wrote about that when we were in that gate, and just have so much appreciation for my inner fighter, and like when she needs to come out, like has been very activated since the election, and I'm sure we'll get activated again. So that feels really resonant and just like nice to connect to that specific language, honestly.
So you're embracing the fighter.
Yeah, the fighter's necessary, right?
Absolutely.
We need the fighter sometimes.
Yeah, I know. So it can be so, I mean, in working with any of these archetypes, it's like, I think sometimes just based on our upbringing or based on society or any type of conditioning, we can just feel like there's some word that hits us in this gut way that's like, oh, I don't like how that feels. I don't want to be considered a fighting person because I'm a communicator. I'm a community, you know. And so just to feel that, to like, I think for me, the reason why I like working with so many words, even though it's kind of overwhelming sometimes, I'm like gene keys and human design and astrology and like the medicine. Like I'm like, is that too much? But for me, the more I can put all those words just into a basket and almost just like pull one out and be like, oh, that is a similar kind of frequency to this other one, but it doesn't have as sharp of an edge for me, you know. And then sometimes you need the sharp edge one to like get you activated a little bit and be like, oh yeah, wait, fighter, eh? Like what is that? You know,
let me get my gloves.
Right? Yeah. I mean, your sun is in the gate of friendship and family in human design. So your personality sun. So it's, and that's all about just being the person who brings people together and is like focused on community and focused on collaboration and being gracious and all of those things. And so, that makes sense that to have planets, you know, a heavy set of planets in ambitious fighter kind of energy would bring up kind of like maybe different than how you saw yourself earlier in life, perhaps, or
I think that in many previous parts of my life, I felt like, well, let me back up. Growing up, my mom was a pretty intense person. She's mellowed out a lot in her age, and it's also something that I've really admired, because I don't know that very many of us have great female role models for being like badass and not taking shit, right? And like embodying that fighter and like running her own business and showing me that like, you're a woman, you can have it all, you can do it all, you don't need a man. Like, wow, okay, cool. Nice. What an awesome role model. And in some ways, I think it made me really go harder and stronger and being like nice and quiet and going the opposite, and learning throughout my life that it's okay and important and I'm really good at and capable of being that fighter. And it's required. You can't just be like friendly and kind and welcoming all the time. That's not how life works, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, knowing what's worth fighting for. I think that's the question that, for me, instead of a New Year's resolution this year, I just put that question on my mirror where I get ready, because the gate of the fighter is the Gregorian New Year gate. It's the gate that we're in during New Year's. And so I'm like, oh, it's interesting to think about, like, instead of a resolution necessarily, it's like zooming out a bit to being like, well, what values are worth fighting for? Like, and it is that kind of discernment that you were talking about. So you're not, you know, there's a lot to fight for right now, and there's a lot to fight against. And, you know, I feel pretty like, close to the surface as far as like the fight, but then it can get really easy to like collapse, I feel, if we're like always just, if you're in that kind of hypervigilant, like I always am ready to fight, then you're gonna just like, but by the time it comes time to throw a punch, you're gonna be like exhausted or like, you know.
Absolutely.
So it's like, just what are the things? It doesn't have to be just one, but like what is the thing that really feels so close to me that is worth following through on that fight energy with.
Totally. Also, what comes to mind for me, when you frame it as what is worth fighting for, also the idea of what are you hungry for comes to mind, which is just interesting, thinking about like this being winter and like our ancestors maybe like running out of food stores and like that long-term motivation for the year, right? And like tying it back into that Gregorian calendar thing is kind of interesting. And just, how Capricorn energy, that capability is like reliant on what you're hungry for and what you're willing to fight for, and how that drives your ambition to not give up on something.
Right.
Even when other people don't believe in you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the stamina that's within there that's required. It's like, I feel like, I mean, I'm curious how you relate to winter in general, like as a season, or like, do you have a favorite season?
It's a funny moving target for me. I grew up in Utah, and before we were in this state of climate change, like we're here in the middle of winter and there's no snow, even though it's a cold day today. It was so cold where I lived growing up, and winter was brutal. And I spent my whole life dreaming to get out of Utah and go to California, also for other reasons, because Utah is a culturally bizarre place, but the winter was an impactful part of that. So it was a time of year I kind of always had a hard time with growing up. And I mentioned my mom was a horse trainer, so that's like an outdoor job, and I went to work with her in the winter, and it was just cold. It's just a brutal time of year. So it was probably my least favorite season growing up. And I think, you know, I've talked to other people about this. I think we're like all taught to idolize summer because it's when you have school off.
Right.
And then you like become an adult and actually realize what your favorite season is.
Yeah, totally.
And it is not summer. And I've really like learned to love and embrace my winter time. I mean, having like a winter birthday and having all of this stuff going on in Capricorn, like I always enjoy kind of like the settling down and the ability to kind of focus on my magic and my jewelry and reading and writing. Like that's such a beautiful, valuable part of winter that most of my life I think got overlooked. So at this era in my life, I would say that fall and winter are some of my favorite seasons.
Nice. Yeah. I just asked that because sometimes it's helpful to like get out of the weeds and just zoom out to like, okay, we all know about the 4 seasons that we grow up with. And when I've had people on the show and asked them about either their favorite season or like what they relate to as far as seasonality, most people end up at one point saying like, yeah, summer has come up as like because school's off, like being the most important. But then beyond that, I think a lot of people have been like, oh yeah, for sure, my favorite season is when I was born. And it's interesting to me. I don't think that that's like always true across the board, but I was at a little like dance solstice event on the solstice, and we went around the circle kind of doing a getting to know you circle event or circle like exercise. And this question was like, what's your favorite season? Just as kind of an extra little thing, like your, you know, name, pronouns, where you're coming from, and what's your favorite season. And almost everybody's was like, well, fall, because that's when my birthday is, or like that, or summer. And the facilitator at the end of it was like, I just have to ask, like, how many people said this season they were born in? And like almost the whole room raised their hand. Wow. Which was super interesting, because I was having this anecdotally through interviewing, you know, a dozen people here that had seemed to be true, but then this whole room, it was probably like, I don't know, 25 people, same kind of thing. And so it's fun to ask and just be like, what is that? You know,
that's so
like
fun.
It kind of makes sense, you know, when you're a little baby, you're taking in so much about the energy of a time, and like how it feels to be in the world when you're small without any words for it or any understanding. And so I'm curious about how that, comes through for people. So
it's interesting. The other interesting thing, like kind of on that same realm, this is also when I realized I just really don't like summer, because it's when my 12th house season is, and really seeing how much people generally have a hard time in the season that their 12th house season is, which is also interesting.
Oh, that is interesting. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more layers to it. Like this is like the most basic, the sun sign stuff. But when is my 12th house season? Also summer. Cancer season. So midsummer. And it feels like a little bit hard that it's like too much. I get affected by heat a lot. You know, and then I'm Leo rising, so I get into Leo season, and I do like Leo season, but it's like edging towards my birthday in September, so it is kind of more like, but the middle of summer can be a challenge in that 12th house realm. That's interesting. It reminds me of your 12th house merch. You have, in addition to the amazing jewelry, Lily also has some incredible merch on her website that I just wanted to shout out here. You have, like, what is it? Lilith, or Saturn is my daddy.
Saturn is my daddy. Saturn is my daddy, so it's very anecdotal.
So good, just like, such good. And then like feral, like Lilith, I really love that one. And then 12th house and 8th house, just like owning it, like 12th house person.
12th house club, 8th house
12th house club, 8th house club. Are there any more amazing gems that I'm missing?
I think
Don't want to give it all away.
Those are the good ones. Yeah. More to come this year. It's
I love it.
Another fun way, to kind of imbue things with magic. So.
Yeah. Well, I loved seeing, the Gate of Mystery for you. So this, this week when this podcast will go live, we will be deep in the Gate of Mystery. And so it feels really appropriate to have you here with your, Venus, talking a lot about Venus in the beginning and Venus being exalted, but knowing that your Venus is in this mystery gate. And I'm curious, how do you relate to that word, like mystery?
It's a great question. I think I love it. I think it was also like an interesting thing for me because I struggle with like wanting to be mysterious and then not being mysterious at all. But I love thinking about my Venus being there and like leaning into mystery in the sense of like a mystery school and like all of my studies that have led me to how I relate to my Venusian practice of jewelry making, and that just feels like so beautiful and aligned. I also think about like mystery just being the idea of endlessness too, right? Which is why I love astrology, because I'll study it for my whole life and I will have barely have touched the surface. And that invokes the idea of mystery to me as well.
Beautiful. Yeah. I love thinking about the mystery school, that concept, and the endlessness, the expanse, like we said earlier, it does feel very Piscean in the sense of it's just like the merged together, there's no finite lines, and it's just, to find something that can captivate you and attract you for eternity, and the great mystery, but being able to like work with it in a tangible and real way is like, that's also how I feel about this work and astrology and specifically, and just the types of people that I get to meet through doing this, like yourself, and just to really get into the mystery really quickly, because it's like you shed off the layers of small talk and it's like, okay, which recognize which, and just be like, okay, let's go. Hallelujah. And you can get into some just such beautiful places of accessing that mystery. So,
totally. It's also fun to think about Capricorn, having the Gate of Mystery in Capricorn, because it's a mystery how the sea goat became to be, right? Like that mythological creature, the mystery of the mythological creature. That's fun to think about.
Totally. I'm curious, do you have anything you want to say about that myth, or like anything that comes to mind when you think about Capricorn? I feel like every person I ever talk to about Capricorn and the myth that behind, sometimes it's pretty obvious. It's like, okay, cool. Like, but with Capricorn, because there's so many pieces, it's like, where exactly is that?
There's so many pieces. I don't know.
And that's okay. I mean, it can just be a mystery, and then that's almost better.
Like the best thing I've ever heard about it, like still just doesn't like scratch the itch for me, which is why I feel like it's just supposed to be a mystery. I went on a deep dive into research about the association of the devil card with Capricorn. That's like a story for another time perhaps, but it was really interesting just to think about like how the devil is now in Christianity and in American Puritan Christianity specifically, and then tracing it back into Europe and then back into Greece and like Pan being, kind of what was like commoditized and turned into the devil because it was like too, sexual, and Pan was a very adored and loved God, like in Greece, during the time when he was being recognized in Greece. And so it's this like, it was like a God of nature and of the wildness and of like being able to approach and appreciate wildness. And then that was kind of like, oh, that's scary, or that's to this or to that. And so it kind of got converted over time into this horned devil god. But like for me, I was like, oh yeah, it's cool to have Capricorn as this image and be able to kind of go back, and then to get to the fishtail, I think you have to go way back, like Sumeria, Babylon, and like a completely different system from the Greeks that we have very little reference point for when we've just studied Greek mythology. But That's so interesting.
But it goes deep, like the way that Capricorn goes deep as the sea goat. It's like the mythology behind Capricorn goes so deep too.
So deep. Yeah, it's not like some of the other signs where we're like, here's one nice little story that makes this make sense.
Totally. Yeah.
Which is the mystery of it all. Speaking of the Devil card, I think about that card and also Capricorn and the relationship to shame. Which gate do you feel like that lives in?
In as far as Capricorn and shame and I mean, the mystery gate makes a lot of sense for that because I think that when some of our deeper desires, I mean, if you look at the tarot card of the Devil, it's like holding the lovers, essentially holding these people, but when you look at it closely, like they're not actually being chained. They have like the ability, it's like the chains are big enough to take off of their neck and they could easily remove them if only they would just recognize. And so, yeah, that's an interesting question. I think that putting things into a box and like being like, oh, I should be afraid of this, and so I'm going to feel chained by it. That type of shame cycle and shame spiral feels very much like kind of a shadow of the gate of mystery. I'm curious, I always do the opposite. So the opposite in the gene keys, there's like the shadow and the gift version. So the gate of mystery's shadow is psychosis, where you can be like either disenchanted or fanatical. It can come across in either of those ways, but you're just like kind of so like freaked out by the mystery that you want to be entrapped or enslaved or in chains because you're like, I can't handle this expansiveness, right? I need to put myself in a box because there's this almost like psychological thing that goes on. And the Gene Keys has like a repressive and a reactive nature of the shadow. So it's kind of like depending on how you're dealing with that shadow, it can come across in different ways. So this is disenchanted or fanatical in the case of the Gate of Mystery. And you could be, I like the word disenchanted because you could feel like you need to like subdue yourself or like take a bunch of pills or something in order to get out of that like state of fear of the mystery, right? Or you could just become like a raving lunatic type of, like where you're like, everything, it all makes sense and conspiracy this and that, and just like kind of just like so wrapped up in that you're not actually like having your feet on the ground anymore. And so, when I think about the Devil card and that, it seems like people that are chaining themselves in maybe because they're afraid to see that they can take off the chains, because then there's maybe too much possibility beyond those chains, right? It's like anything could happen. There's like infinite number of possibilities if I just take off the chains. So
that's so interesting.
I don't know, what do you think? Do you
for me, I think because like I can have shame or be shaming about ambition. Like I said before, it's like a complicated relationship for me that feels like really an interesting part of the Capricorn shame story, and maybe it fitting into the gate of ambition, the ways in which we expect people to be ambitious in a certain way and we shame them if they're ambitious in different ways or not ambitious enough. I think that whole concept can be quite riddled with shame.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I mean, so the shadow of the gate of ambition is greed. And that word holds a lot of shame. I think for nobody wants to be called greedy, and and greed and ambition go hand in hand sometimes. And so it's kind of like, why are you being, to what end, Like is having an ambition for your personal sovereignty, is that it tends to be looked at as like, oh, well, you're not thinking about other people, and like it's everybody, again, you have to climb on other people's backs to get to the top, and that's the only way it can happen, So I feel you on that. It's like, there's a lot of different, I like holding the complexity of like the fact that it's not all like there's like one good gate and one bad gate, or like, it's like they all contain a lot of complexity and multi-sidedness within them, like any sign does, right? And so
it's really interesting and beautiful.
Lots to think about.
So much to think about. My brain's like, wow, opening so many tabs right now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's bringing the tarot in. It's just like, all the things, Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, how do you feel about, speaking of tarot, how do you feel about the tarot card of the Universal Tarot of 2025?
The Hermit.
The Hermit.
I'm excited for it. I mean, I think we all need some inward reflection this year. I hope that people find solace and wisdom and support in turning inward. It's interesting to think about with all the Gemini stuff. Like I've been so overwhelmed by Jupiter and Gemini, and just it feels like there's no way to know when information comes out what is true. Mm-hmm. It's a lot for my nervous system. And thinking about Uranus moving into Gemini also, I'm just like, whew. So the Hermit seems like nice salve to all that.
Agreed. Yeah, I know. I remember in 2020 when it was like fake news was like this term that was coming out and being used across the board. And I was like, what is going on? Because at that point in time, I did trust the news. And I had my news sources that I trusted. And maybe that was a little bit too forgiving to like the things that I should have dug deeper into. But also at the same time, I think that my personal belief is that by declaring fake news to be the thing and planting the seeds about that being the thing, it allowed for the dissolution of it in a bigger way. So it's like chicken or the egg kind of thing. It's not 100%. Like maybe it was already a little bit fake, quote unquote, but it wasn't like as big as it. Because now it's like news media is like bought and sold, and it is so hard to tell where any speck of truth is. And
it's wild. And a news story breaks, and then like 5 minutes later, it's like complete opposite information. Just kidding. I'm like,
right?
Oh, I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think COVID times really did make us, for the first time in my lifetime, really like check in with our own personal like gut a lot more than we ever had to before.
Yeah,
because it was like, you couldn't tell, it was all so new that there was no like authority to go to say like, hey, actually what's right. And because like everybody around you is kind of a moving shape-shifting force of like what to believe at any given moment. I think that was like this beautiful exercise in being like, what does my internal compass say? And then how do I gauge what is important for the people that are directly around me and not like just kind of outsource my power to like the government or the doctor or the whatever authority, But now I kind of thought that would be like, it was like a nice little test, and then I'm like, and then we'll go back to being able to trust the authority, now it's like, oh well, like that was nothing, the spiral continues. And so I like the Hermit for that same reason, just like it's time to really hone that muscle of like the internal awareness and that light that's guiding the way for us as individuals. And
I like it. It's also in numerology, that's my number is 9. That's my like home card, so that feels good.
Nice. The kind of completion of a cycle. And nice.
Cool. I'm here for the Hermit energy. And selfishly, I'm going into a 12th house year, so I'm like, this is great.
Doubles up, lines up.
Nice. Lines up, wow.
Nice. Well, with all that being said, do you have any big, or small or close to home, what feels alive for you for the year ahead or the season ahead? And you can also speak to kind of any offerings that you have for people listening out there.
Well, I'm really excited to be making Venus jewelry, so stay tuned for that. That'll probably be out in spring. And I'm kind of like have some reconfiguring in the works. I'm relating to my Substack and just what I want that to look like. And I'm looking forward to, I just sent out my weekly yesterday, and I'm looking forward to tapping more into the cycles of the moon and how to work with those smaller cycles in our life. I'm really looking forward to sharing that with people. That's my Substack is called The Stellar Situation, so you can find me over there. And I will continue always writing about the new and full moon and sharing rituals. That's like one of my true loves of astrology.
Your rituals are so good. I love them. Yeah.
Thank you.
I recommend.
I love it. That's one of my favorite things that I do and offer for people. So, and I do one-on-one readings. I'm kind of reworking those offerings, so keep an eye on it. It's still a great time to do my New Year's offering, which is just like mini pre-recorded reading overview of your year, and then you share some intentions you have, and based on your intentions and what's going on in your chart, I create what I call a visual spell, which is a little vision board that's sized for your phone screensaver, so you're seeing it all the time. I mean, that's the whole kind of science behind vision boards, is the more often you see something, it trains your neural pathways to align yourself with those opportunities. So cool. That New Year's offering is still available on my site and is a cool thing to do for yourself all of January, really. And I have some exciting things I'm going to launch in the spring, so that'll be kind of a rebirth time for me that I'm looking forward to.
I love it. That's how it should be. Yeah. Well, I highly recommend reading Lily's weekly newsletter. It's really awesome, and the way you write is just so fun and so engaging and just like alive. It makes me really happy every time I read it.
Thanks,
yeah, definitely. And definitely check out the merch and the jewelry and these really spectacular ritual offerings. I mean, I didn't know about the vision board for the home screen. That's such a cool idea.
I mean, it's a fun thing to do for yourself. It's fun. I do them seasonally. Coming back to like setting those goals, it's a really fun little creative practice just to like realign like what your ambitions are for the season ahead.
Totally. Aw, cool. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on Cycles of Time and talking here. It's been so fun.
Fun.
Yeah. Do you have any final thing you want to say, or do you feel complete?
Just thank you so much for having me. I've loved watching your practice grow and how you're bringing everything together, and you're such an inspiration, and your podcast is amazing. I can't believe I get to live in the same town as you.
Oh, yay.
I just really feel thankful to know you, and thank you for having me on.
Oh, feeling is so mutual. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Once again, that was Lily Hussey. You can find her on Instagram at Good Hussey, or her website is goodhussey.com. That's GOODHUSSEY. And she's just an amazing astrologer, an incredibly kind and wise person, and a really talented artist and jeweler, making these beautiful talismans and kind of imbued with magic physical objects that I'm excited to get my hands on. So do check her out on her website or on Instagram to book a reading, or check out her amazing jewelry and other products. So thanks again, Lily, so much for coming on and talking to me about all your Capricorn and how you see Capricorn as a mermaid. I love it. As for everybody else, I'll let you go and get on to the rest of your week. But I hope you are having or had a beautiful Cancer full moon and are just using it as a sign to take care of yourself. Cancer is a sign of the nurturer, and it's definitely a time when we need a lot of extra TLC for ourselves and others. So whatever ways are calling out to you to take care of yourself or your neighbors or your family or people in Los Angeles, please do. And I will see you again next week. As always, you can support Cycles of Time by giving me a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're listening to this on, whether it's Spotify or Apple Music or Substack. And love to hear your comments, love to see your heart-shaped icons pop up in my feed. And those are all really helpful things to just kind of help get the word out and tap in with the cycles of the earth as we keep on moving through space. So have a beautiful, beautiful week ahead, and I will see you next week. Bye.